Welcome, everyone. Like, I know some of you are new, and for those who have been here before, I think they know what to expect. We always go deep, very deep. Usually, the spaces I hold, it's about impact and transformation. We say it as it is, and truly, the truth of reality, wisdom is really what we need in today's world. I always say we are not looking for content, we are looking for transformation. So if transformation is your thing, you've definitely come to to the right space. Hi, Damien. I also see you. So my spaces are also interactive. So I'm happy to see America's Supermom on the stage already. And so anyone that wants to join the stage, I'm inviting you up as well. That way we can interact, we can ask questions. And I'm going to give you background on why today's topic is very important. Whenever I say emotions, one of the things I've come to realize is that we think of emotions in terms of, anger, happiness, joy. But really, it's about our energy, okay? It's about how our energies run through us because emotions are energy in motion. So I hope, and at least the people I teach, I try to help them see the technical side of emotions, right? The science of emotions, right? The psychology of emotion, because that's what is missing because when we just think of emotions, we think of, oh, I'm angry, oh, I'm upset. But we don't think of the psychological implications and the emotional side of it. Okay, so that's the first thing I want us to explore today, the technical side of it, the science of it, the psychology of emotions, because ultimately, all that we're going to do, all that we do in life is going to be emotionally driven. So emotions are probably the most important things you can study because everything you're going to do and everything you're going to get, everything you're going to do and everything you're going to get. So when we start going into manifestation, which is more advanced, everything you're going to do and everything you're going to get is going to be dependent on your energy management. Managing your thoughts and managing your energy, those two things create the emotions, your charge, your energy charge. When we talk about negative thinking, positive thinking, the reality is that when you are charged up, if you're angry, you're charged up and you're about to really go all out and do something that is equal to that charge. And if you're charged to the positive high, when we say high vibration, the emotion of love, of joy, of peace, you're going to bring that into your relationships, into your community, into your business. And there are emotions that attract people and there are emotions that people run away from. And so your business, in order for you if you want to attract more clients and customers, you have to really, really work hard to make sure you are charging your environment, charging yourself that your employees are happy, you are happy, that you are creating an environment that when customers and clients walk into, or when they engage with you, or when they are working with you, they are experiencing you in a way that they want to hang out around you, they want to do business with you, they want to give you money. So I'm connecting that to entrepreneurship as well. So Damien, welcome. I'm going to open it up. How do you process your emotions? Anything I've said, has anything resonated with you? Anything has it surprised you? Has anything given you something new to think about? And if you want to connect or share your experience, definitely this is the place to do it. And I see Paula on LinkedIn as well. We also have Clubhouse running at the same time. So go ahead. Who wants to go first? America's Supermom, you've been here before. Do we give Damien time to introduce himself?
Absolutely.
Okay, Damien,
Hey everyone, how are you?
I'm doing great. You?
I'm good. How do you pronounce your name?
Toyin.
Toyin. Yeah, I've been in your rooms before. I appreciate you
Oh,
having me
wow.
up. And
Thank you.
yeah, America's Supermom. We used to kick it back in COVID when Clubhouse was really hot. And yeah, I've been off for a while and now I'm back. But
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, honestly, what you're saying, I do resonate with it a lot. And I have personal experiences in what you're sharing. And I agree with you 100%. I think we've been cultivated as productive human beings, and I'm using air quotes and productive human beings, to invest a lot in emotional triggers.
Mm,
And there is an allergic reaction to thinking logically or pragmatically. It's
mm,
boring, it requires process, it requires patience. And yeah, we're all addicted to the easy button, which is, and you're talking about the science. Like I looked into the science as well, like the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, and how it kind of controls our reaction to things. You know,
mm,
meditation, cooking, cycling, like all these things are additive to us being less emotionally triggered and having a more balanced approach to a situation, because emotions aren't a negative thing and they're not just positive, they're just signals for us to embrace and find ways of navigating what's in front of us. And because we're not trained in that way, it's very difficult for us to find the balance, because if everything is a stress response, everything will feel stressful. And
mhm,
so, yeah, I think what you're saying is right on point. I could talk your ear off
mhm,
all
mhm.
day on this topic, but yeah,
Yeah.
if there's anything specific that you'd like to hear from me and how I've addressed some of these issues, I'm more than happy to share.
Oh, thank you for being on stage. And the way I teach, emotions when it comes to, I also use spiritual psychology. I go into human design. And the way I teach it, you actually 100% have control over the emotions you decide to manifest. The reason is because the mind, the output of the processing of the mind is what activates these chemical reactions in the body. And how it works is you receive the energy charge in your physical body to take the action you're thinking about. Right? Is that your thoughts, they are metaphysical. Nobody can touch your thoughts, but your thoughts and your energy, once it comes through your nervous system, it creates, I mean, through electricity, nerves, you have electricity running. They activate and create the type of chemical that is required for you to do the things you were thinking about. One of the things I also share is that the mind is not designed to filter positive or negative. The self is responsible for that decision process. And that's why the power comes back to at the, when I say soul level, you observing you, you are the only one that can choose your thoughts. If you don't choose your thoughts and you just allow all thoughts to run through your mind, the mind doesn't choose for you. The mind doesn't filter your thoughts for you. Whatever you send into your mind will produce the equivalent reaction. And it's just like a computer. Your computer doesn't tell you what to put on the computer, but whatever you type into it, whatever you save into it, that's it. So part of the empowerment is not really the mind. Many people talk about mindset, mindset, mindset. Mind is not the issue. It's not, because it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's like a car. Your car doesn't challenge you where you're driving to, right? It's there to take you wherever you say you want to go. You can press the accelerator, it moves forward. You can press the brake, it stops. And so if you put bad thoughts in your mind, you press the brake. If you put good thoughts in your mind, it's like pressing the accelerator. You move forward in life. When people start talking about blocks, these things like that, like anxiety, fear, limitations, is that because the mind is not designed to filter those things out, the moment you tell yourself a story, okay, of fear, your mind would automatically create the reaction, the chemicals of fear in your body. And each of the emotions is tied to a way of a pattern of thinking. What is fear? The moment you believe that something that is not favorable to you, something that you don't want to see happen to you, the moment you believe it's going to happen to you, your mind will make it happen to you. Right? The moment you don't know, right? When we say confusion, you don't know right or wrong, you don't know what steps to make, and your mind is trying to figure things out, and you're not giving it clarity, right? And you're not giving it direction, and you're not giving it clear instructions. The moment you are confused, you're not making clear decisions, your mind will produce, right, the same chemical reaction that is showing you doubt. You doubt yourself. So if I ask you, what do you want to eat for dinner? Okay. If you say, I don't know, the moment you say, I don't know, your body will have a block. It cannot move forward until you give it clarity. So part of this training is taking charge of what you're feeding your mind, right? Taking responsibility of what you're, it's like food. We have this training of, eat good food, nutritional education. This is protein. This is carbohydrate. This is good for you. This is good fat. This is bad fat. This is oil. I mean, the education system took at least a little bit more time to inform us about what we are ingesting physically and what those things do in our body, and which one is digested in the mouth, which one is digested in small intestine stuff. Like, some form of education was given to us so that when you are seeing cookies, that stuff is is going to spike up your blood sugar. When you're seeing donuts, not everything that is delicious is healthy for you. We know as much as that. That is the level of intelligence and education we now need about our mind. Not everything that is giving you dopamine on social media is actually healthy for your well-being, for your mental well-being, right? Spending 4 hours scrolling here, dopamine, dopamine, dopamine. It's tasty, it's delicious, it's enticing, it's addictive. Does it mean it's enriching to your life? Does it move your life forward? Or are people being overwhelmed, confused, and depressed? Right? This is the decision of the era we are living in right now, is that your mental health, your emotional health is tied to the decisions you are making in terms of what you're exposing your mind to and what you're asking your mind to process. And whatever that is, just like food, whatever you put in your mouth, your system will attempt to synthesize, digest it, extract nutrients and energy from it, and let go of what's not good. And part of letting go when I come to emotions is, well, once you, let's say, because we're all open to this, let's say you've processed the negative emotion. Now you're not feeling good. Part of the new things we must learn is how to, right, discharge, right? How to not keep holding on to negative charge for too long. If you're angry in the morning, do you stay angry all day? Do you stay angry all week? Do you stay angry all month? Because that charge also has direct health effects, because your body is now living in your own energy field that you've charged up with your negative thinking. So I know I said a lot. Let's unpack it. Let's discuss it. America's Supermom, I'll let you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I love the part about learning how to discharge it. And I think also how to categorize it, because, when you are, let's just say you're teaching right now, it is a lot of energy output that you put into teaching, and knowing how to navigate that energy that you have versus if someone is to come up on stage and have something to say that might be I think the whole thing is understanding how to label the energy and use it for yourself, because some people might say, oh, if somebody comes up here and they disagree and they have a negative response, it can really distract you or get you off um, topic based on that energy if you're not aware of how to channel it, and how to, um, it's like playing tennis. Just because somebody serves you the ball, you can serve it back to them. So, really understanding how to do that, um, is important, as well as what you were saying about making sure that you discharge it. If for some reason that you do take it on, but that, it's just a part of how you're able to process it for you so that you can remove it and it doesn't stay lingering. I know from being from a biblical standpoint, God tells us not to go to bed angry. You know, if you have some situation, get it resolved before you go to sleep. So that point that you brought up, I think, is powerful, because I can tell you there's been many a nights that I went to bed angry and paid for it later on. I don't know if you're talking, Toy, and we can't hear you.
Oh, I was on mute and I was going on and on. Thank you. So I was saying that what you just brought up is so important because in the human design classes, there are 7 classes, each covers different topics. And one of the topics is mastering your emotions and feelings. And another topic talks about not just your internal process, because we have to see emotions as, okay, what's going on within you, how you talk to yourself. So, how your mind and your heart engage with one another, because there's internal conversation that is going on within you. How you, the real you, right, instructs your mind. Okay. And then how your mind also signals back to you. And one of the vehicles is emotions. Okay. Emotions is when the mind is also letting you, giving you, it's almost like a dashboard, letting you know what's going on within you. It's like if you're driving a car and you're out of gas, you're going to get a warning sign so that you can fix it. But many times we ignore this warning sign, or we don't have the skills. We don't even have a clue that what we need to do is to slow down, is to rest, is to sleep, is to rest and digest, is to do all of those things, because we don't just know what's going on. So we keep driving our car until the car stops. Okay. So this is also part of the education. Now, the next level is what you're also talking about, how we interface with other human beings. I call it the human to human interface. Okay. It's the human to human interface because we take in information, we process it within ourselves, and we release information back, right? Information and energy. We consume information and energy, we let it out as well. Even in the physical world, when you eat food, the reason we eat food is we're trying to extract energy to power the body from the meal, okay? The nutrients and all of that. So the human to human interface creates awareness, okay, of the impact people are having on us and the impact we are having on other people. And what I have seen also is when people are not aware of the force that we are dealing with, that certain people actually exert energy. Okay, so for example, you talked about me, right? As a motivational speaker, I am exerting energy, but the energy here is consciously selected for positivity, motivation, enlightenment. So you would experience this impact to mobilize you and move you forward. But please realize that there's also a negative side that many people embody, that they tell you something that confuses you. They tell you something that makes you lose hope. They tell you something that people feel desperate. This thing is right. Is that there's energy field, there's energy impact, there's power. Certain people pack on more of these things, and some people do it for good, some people do it negatively. Awareness is required because ultimately, if you expose your mind, whether to your own internal processing of negativity or to the negativity of somebody else, other people's thoughts, has impact on you, particularly if you don't know how to detach. If you don't have the skills to detach from thoughts that come to rob you of your power, from thoughts that come to weaken you, from thoughts that come to confuse you, if you don't know how to right discharge that as well, because that's another skill, particularly the people you are in relationship with. Because when you're in relationship with people, it's like you're giving them an extra key to your house. They can come in anytime and do crap and they walk away. They can come in, open your fridge. Depending on how much access you've given them, they can come in, make a mess in your house and then leave. And they have easy access because you gave them the key. This is when we start going into boundaries and all of those things. So the human to human interface is also calling people's attention to understand that everybody you're in relationship with, your spouse, your business partners, your kids, all of these things, you have to know the effect you're having on them. You have to own it. Okay. And when you express yourself, they have to process your own thoughts and energy. And when they respond back, you now have to process their thoughts and energy. And there's a science to how you receive information, how you arrive at conclusions, how you make decisions, because ultimately you think about the five senses: taste, touch, smell, sight, sound. Okay. Is that the physical realm? We experience reality physically through those five senses, and those five senses has to take the information to the mind for processing. So let's say it's winter. It's winter cold here in Chicago. Let's say it's December, November. The moment you step out into the cold, your senses will tell the mind something is off, and the mind always interprets. So one of the duties of the mind is to interpret. In fact, it interprets sensations, it interprets vibrations, it interprets emotions, it interprets all this non um non should I say non it's a different language, because the language of the body is not English. Okay, I'm going a little bit into an advanced side. The language of the human body is not English, right? So that's why a newborn baby, an infant, can still communicate with the mom, even though it doesn't know ABCD, through crying, through emotions, through sensations. And the mom has to tune in and calm the baby and bring the baby back into rest, into place of peace. Okay. So babies speak, they express themselves, but they don't use language. One thing to also know is that the mind thinks in terms of language. Whatever language you learn is the one you're going to think in. Your primary language is what you think in, because it's an interpretation of your own senses, of your own vibrations as well. Now, when we talk about sixth sense, this is where we go into intuition. Sometimes you can read your intuition. If you're more in tune, you realize that your intuition doesn't have a language. It doesn't have English language or anything like that. It's a different, that's when we start going into spiritual language and emotional language. But I won't cover that today, but I'm just calling your attention that there's a lot happening inside you, but your mind is listening to what's going on inside you, what's going on around you. And also it can pick up what's going on in the world that's why we start talking about a subconscious, right? Is that it's your mind has intelligence that even you don't understand, that it uses to kind of route you. should I say it's like the GPS? There's some programming in your mind where it tries to keep you safe. It tries to route you. It tries to remind you. If you tell your mind what's important to you, your mind would keep those things and help you route. It's also a tool of manifestation, because the mind ultimately informs the body and trains the body on what the body should do, which is another topic entirely. So, any reactions, Damien, on what you've heard me say so far? Thank you. And thank you, Anisha, Trisan, Lorna, Shalene. And then we also have Paula, Miss Paula on LinkedIn. Miss Paula, if you want to join the conversation, you can raise your hand on LinkedIn and definitely we'll be able to pick up your audio as well. Thank you for being here. Damien, over to you.
Oh yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I mean, everything you shared is super insightful, and I agree with 100% of what you have to say. The thing is that I'm realizing is what you're saying is not new, and you are correct. Finding language to communicate this to everyone to inspire them that we we do all have access to this. The thing that I realize that grants us access is patience and more patience. Because a lot of it in practice can be contradicting in nature, like just saying it and having it done. And here's why I say this, right? A lot of what you said was grounded in something I saw on the Discovery Channel. And what they were showing was a gazelle getting chased by a lion. The gazelle was there at a watering hole, just sipping away, trying to eradicate thirst. The lion came out of nowhere. It bounced 3 times. The lion got tired. And immediately, what they showed in slow motion was how the gazelle did this shake. And it said what this shake is was releasing the tension in its muscle. Like the fight or flight reaction to seeing the lion made the muscle tense, made the blood flow faster, made everything necessary for the gazelle to escape. The second it knew it was out of danger, it went back to the exact same watering hole. And in that moment, it made me realize that if we had that ability, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And what we do is normally we take that trauma to sleep, we take it into next week, we take it into next year. We might not even visit that watering hole again because we were so traumatized. And I think the ability of understanding that these things are temporary, they're happening in a moment, and we can release them, detach from them. That was your word, which I love. Is not something that we intuitively are taught. I think we can intuitively get there, but we're not taught in the way that you have your course and you teach folks how to access it. So I appreciate what you're saying, and it is real, and it's language I think we should be more familiar with.
I love this. Let me add on one more insight that everybody in the world needs to appreciate and understand. And I've seen this set people free. I distinguish between emotions and feelings. Most people do not. And I'll tell you what is the main difference is that, and I'll use an analogy so that people understand because it's quite difficult to explain, but I always try to make complex things very, very easy to understand, even for children. So remember November in the cold Chicago example I gave. If you step out into the cold, your immediate experience, okay, by default is you experience cold and your body, okay, will send that information to your mind and your mind would register this is cold. Now, superior intelligence will say in order to keep yourself warm, come back into the house or get a coat, something like that. That's where, maturity intelligence builds on each other. Now, imagine that you try to fight the cold or you come up with a story. Okay, two people experience the cold. One person says, "Oh, cold in Chicago is so beautiful. Can you see the snow? Everywhere is snowy. Oh, white snow. Oh, I just love seeing snow in Chicago." Another person came from Florida and was like, "I hate Chicago. Everywhere is so cold. You cannot go anywhere." Okay, the same experience, right, in the body, but two different stories. Both of them are walking away with a memory. Both of them are creating a memory. One will create a memory that will store negative emotion in their system. The one who sees it as beautiful and comes up with a beautiful story, the next time that person remembers Chicago snow, that person's experience will recreate the emotional experience. The person that came from Florida did that said that told a story of negativity. Every time the memory, whenever the person remembers Chicago, the person will relive that painful experience. So feelings is tied to your own decisions and the story you tell about what happened to you, what you experienced. The emotion, the original emotion came and left, meaning you experienced cold, you felt yourself, you warmed yourself up, that's done. The initial experience is done. Somebody upset you, somebody triggered you, somebody got you angry. Okay, good. Now, the story you tell and you save into your memory will create future feelings. That becomes your feelings because your decision is tied to that story. It's not the original one that you didn't have any control on over. Tell me, I've seen people 15 years after, okay, 15 years after something happened. Every time they recall that story they stored, because when you store that story, the original emotion is attached to that story, and the chemical composition that is tied to that story, you will recreate that experience in your body again. You will traumatize yourself again because you stored the original emotion and you told a story that is more permanent. And so every time you remember that person that pissed you off, right, you feel the pain. Every time you remember what happened, you feel it all over again. So the recreated emotion becomes a feeling, and feeling becomes a part of your reality. And people build identity and behavior around feelings. Soon enough, when you see the person, you're going to act out. Okay? You see the person's phone number, that feelings of this person is this person, you right makes you pick the call or not pick the call. And so feelings become more permanent and becomes who we are when we don't process all of these things positively, and also understanding the control you have in terms of how you experience life and the story you choose to tell yourself and the story you create memory around based on your conclusions. You've also stored the original chemical composition, energy charge, and you recreate that charge every time you tell that story, whether it's positive or not. Did somebody want to say something? Go ahead, America's Supermom.
And now, so this is good because my question is, when you're dealing with your children, let's say you have one, they have curfew and somebody doesn't honor curfew. So, of course, there's a boundary and you enforce whatever punishment or situation for that. But how do you process these emotions so that you don't hold
Mm,
on to that situation, you know, with having boundaries? I think, for
mhm,
me,
mhm,
this is the hardest to kind of put into
mhm.
practice with your children.
Oh, yeah. And I love this question because I actually created a class that is almost 2 hours in my school for parents of children. Because what I introduce in that class is parents need to know, depending on the age of the child, okay, there is an energetic interaction, the human to human, right? Is that there is an energetic interaction where when a child is young, the parent has full control, full responsibility, right, over the child. As the child grows older, okay, the child wants a little bit more control, more freedom, but at a certain age, they don't have responsibility. They want freedom, but they don't have responsibility. When children start growing older, they want you to have less control on them, but yet they don't have full responsibility. How you start giving, so this is more of a, first of all, be aware that they're going to fight for, they're going to say, okay, I'm growing older, I want to do what I want to do. And you are going to say, but you don't know enough, right? To get this freedom, this level of freedom that you're asking for. You don't know enough about life, okay, for you to be out there just doing whatever you want to do. Because ultimately, and I'll share, this is the biggest problem people still face in adulthood. Ultimately, parents at a certain age, 24, 25, whatever that age is, you're supposed to give 100% control, 100% responsibility over to the child. But teenage years is when you want to, it's that tug, it's like a tug, it's a back and forth, back and forth. So generally speaking, I try to educate parents to understand what's happening. Now, in practical ways, okay, I try, in fact, some of my kids are listening to what I'm saying right now, right? Is that you I recommend that parents actually have emotional conversations with their kids. Right? That's why I developed that class. Because if the kids know why you're making the decisions you're making is to protect them and they respect it, there's going to be less fights. But if the kids feel you are trying to exert control on them, that the only reason you're asking them to do this thing is because you want to control them, then they will fight you, generally speaking. So even part of this journey is that once we are aware what is going on and the cycle of life, because what's happening now is that many people are adults today, and because they fought their parents, they still don't have agency. Even though they are far away from home today, they are still not independent of their parents, even in adulthood. I've seen this a lot. They never, it's like a mother bringing forth a child. You still have to cut the umbilical cord. So many people, because that transition was not healthy out of the home, they had to fight their parents for control. They weren't given the cars and keys to their life. There wasn't a transition, a proper transition into adulthood, right? The parents didn't respect the voice and opinion of the children. They didn't celebrate the growth and expansion of their children. They didn't help the children also learn how to control their own emotions. Many people become adults today and they are traumatized by the parents child relationship they had. What I have found is that most children, if they know it's not that you're trying to control them, it's that you're trying to protect them, is that you're trying to honor them, most kids will respect that and they will even come at you and come to love you for the things you do for them. But as long as the conversation is tied to who's got control, I'm your parent, sit down here, this. There's only so many times you can pull that calling card, particularly at a certain age. There's only so much time it's going to work for you to demand and say, I'm this, you have to do this, you have to do. At some point, they will know I can do what I want to do, particularly when they get closer to 20, 21, 22, right? At that age, really they want freedom. So the decision, and each child is different, but ultimately the reason I developed that class for the parents is when the parents understand that there's a psychological transition where as kids grow older, they want more control, but the reality is they are not yet responsible to handle, okay, all the energy within them to make the right decisions because they are not wise enough. So how do you um transition that? That's where wisdom is called for, and you have to know your kids. But ultimately, I say, have a conversation. These children are wise enough. They are very, very intuitive, but most parents don't have the skills to even have the conversation. And for me, my dad, I think that's one of the reasons that really helped me in childhood was we talked about everything. And there are times, I mean, we talked about even things like as a girl, as a teenager, you wear shorts, you wear like, and my dad would look at me and say, nope, you're not going with me with that. Go and change. Right? And you go, oh, right? But that didn't make us love each other less. But I respect that, appreciate that. And the voice with which he engaged me was not one of control. It was one of, I insist for your own good. And listen, I am deciding whether you're going to go with me or not. And let me tell you one thing that also happened that was just to tell you the type of parent I had. So I'm number 5 of 6, but back then I had older brothers that listen, they go partying, they go doing everything they want to do. Guys, it was quite interesting. And I remember one day my dad came downstairs, and the guys wanted to, they had told him they had a friend's party all overnight. They were like maybe 18, 19 or something. I can't remember exactly how old they were. But my dad came downstairs and just said, left to me, you shouldn't be going. I don't expect my children to be seen 1 p.m. in the night, running the streets, on and on and on. However, you see, if you're going to go, just make sure you close my door. I'm going to sleep. And, and he gave this lecture to let them know where he stands. But I think at that point, they were already like maybe 20 or something, right? So he gave his lecture. He said, you know what? If you're going to leave this house, just make sure you lock your door, my door, the door of my house. But left to me, this is not something I sanction. But the guys, they went and they snuck out and they snuck back in. I'm just giving you real life stuff. But at that age, my dad was not trying to exert physical control. He was trying to get their minds right. He was trying to get them to think in the way that is wise, but he wasn't using force to get them to do what he knew they were supposed to do. But he made sure they knew that this decision was theirs to make. He gave them his best advice, but he was like, I'm going to bed. I'm going to sleep, right? I'm going to sleep. So I'm just trying to say parents have to get to those levels. Particularly, it's age. I think it's how you handle an 11-year-old and a 19 or 20-year-old has to be different, right? Because at a certain age, the best thing you can offer them is wisdom. Okay, the best thing you can offer them is counsel, right? Even into adulthood, if you establish that relationship early enough, you find out that even your 30-year-old will come back to you and will be seeking your advice. Well, as long as you're demanding this, demanding that, they'll be running away from you, and you don't want that. I hope that helped. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. That was very good about, and I think sometimes, it's no different than being the parent and, explaining to your kids why they can they cannot do certain things that maybe their friends' parents allow them to do based on your own values and everything. So that was really clear in being able to understand even just the whole thing of agency, because I just had this situation today. My son has his license, and I told him to be back at a certain time, and so I called him after he wasn't here. He was like 15 minutes late, and he was like, well, I left the place at the time that I told him to be home. And I was like, okay, I respect that. I said, so the next time you ask me and I tell you no, now you understand because of your thought process. You didn't think to call or to clarify with me. However, it was your decision making that will put you in the situation for in the future. If the answer is no, you understand why. So this was a good clarity.
Right. And all actually part of what we could do, okay, unless you've done it before, if this is the first time this is happening, part of what's happening is that the thought process of kids is not mature. It's not as sophisticated as yours. So what you think is a no-brainer that he should know he should call, he should know to do this, he may actually be clueless. This is part of maturing the intellect, the mind, is that they are programming their algorithm may not be as sophisticated as yours. So instead of saying, okay, if you've never done what I'm about to say, then instead of applying judgment and assumption and saying they did it on purpose, you could then say, okay, next time, this is what I need you to do. If you know you're going to be late, give me a call that you're running late, right? This is the same thing we do for doctor's appointments, right? Even so this is a skill. Now you are teaching him a skill, not just the moment, you are teaching him a life skill that says, okay, I know you are intending to arrive. Okay, you left late. Now you're running behind on the promised time. Next time, text me, let me know so that I'm not anticipating, right? Because what we don't want to do with kids is gotcha. You know, I knew you wouldn't come this time and you failed. You don't want to be putting your kids in the failure category. Like, I knew. You don't want them to feel like you are trapping them. right? So when they do genuinely do all those things that you're like, oof, kids, man, use it as a teachable moment to say, next time, this is what I expect of you. Next time, leave earlier. Next time. So all of a sudden, now you can hold them accountable for the information you've already taught them, right? So that we stop making assumptions that they know the right thing to do. This is part of the education we can offer kids, right? So not to create this relationship where they turn it into antagonism, like you're just looking for the time I fail, you're just looking for my mistakes, you're just looking for anytime I make an error, you're not graceful, you just try to jump on me anytime I make a mistake. Because ultimately, what I found that motivates kids is celebrate them really, really, really well for the great things they do, and minimize, okay, minimize the errors you are pointing out. That's what I have found, because you are also training their nervous system on how they will be responding to you if they become jumpy and anticipating that mom is going to jump on them. Because ultimately we want to create a peaceful space where your kids actually love coming around you. But if they keep anticipating that your relationship with them is your core, always looking for fault, always looking for when they make errors, always looking for this, they will start slowly but surely avoid hanging around you, because their nervous system is processing you. They are processed, right? Whether right or wrong, whether you understand what I'm saying, is that how they now experience you, is it usually positive? How much of it is positive experience versus negative? Okay. So as parents, hopefully we are creating two, three times more positive experiences with our kids than negative experiences, because their memory, if they have their memories filled up with more of you saying, no, no, this, then they will see you through that. Remember feelings and emotions. They will have more memories of when you were going at them than when you were having fun, playing games, fooling around, eating good food, just doing things that are pleasant, things that are beautiful, things that are enjoyable. So this is part of what we have to watch out for. Because if we look back at our own memories with with our parents, the question I'll ask you is, which ones do you remember most? Which ones do you remember most? How do you remember your parents? Is that this is the moment we have to make sure that they remember the good food we cooked, the place, the fun we had, the games we played, the things we did, how we, right? We want them to remember more positivity than they saying, my mom did this to me, did this, that, right? This is part of consciousness that I'm also trying to incorporate into life, is that we are creating this is their own childhood as well. And we are part of their memories. And so we don't want them to be storing up and remembering their childhood more negatively than positively through all this interaction and energy exchange. So just more consciousness around that, is we actually more want to have more fun, right? And create more experiences as they're growing older, because when they leave, they leave. And if they've stored up all kinds of stories, true or not, wrong or bad, but it will be their own side of how they experience all those things. And it will be true for them because that's their own life too. And you'll not be there to be correcting and say, oh, but this, because that's what leads to future conversations of kids now saying, when I was young, you were so this to me. And then parents will be saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Well, that's the good parents that are now aware when the child is like grown and the child is now having the voice to really now say, oh, you didn't do this to me. You didn't do that to me. I'm like, listen, let's discuss it now. Let's discuss it today, not 20, 30 years from now. Let's start fixing this thing now. So I hope you understand what I'm saying as well. Thank you.
Yes, that was awesome. Yes, very good. Because I love that piece about them not thinking how to respond in a situation. That's part of the training for them. Because, that's another thing we can forget based on our own knowledge. It's like second nature. So I love that point. That was awesome.
I have a
Thank
question
you.
for
Yes, sir.
Toyin.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
I completely received what you just shared. However, how do you deal with liars?
Okay. Grown liars. or children.
I mean, in any variety. How do you deal with that, especially with everything you just shared was a part of, the focus and the deliberate actions of expressing that there is a child adult relationship and you're making a mistake, and there is no help if we don't really understand what you're going through, and lies just persist.
Okay, so okay, I'm going to answer it in an unusual. You are not going to expect the way I answer this question. So one of the things I coach people on is, particularly in any form of relationship, is to understand the insecurities of your partner or anybody you are in relationship with, because typically insecurities make us morph our identity, right? Lack of vulnerability, lack of honesty, because vulnerability requires you to expose the intentions of your heart. But the moment people get into spaces where they don't feel safe, okay, they take on behavior beliefs um, that suddenly, I mean, can make you go like, you don't just get it. Like, why would this person lie? Why would this person do this? Why would this person do that? It doesn't make sense anymore. So one of the things, there's a class I teach on, it's called the Game Plan, 12 Strategies for Winning in Life and Business. It's a 3-hour masterclass, and it also comes with a life strategy workbook. I explain the influence of nature, nurture, culture. Nature, nurture, and everybody needs to do this work. Nature, nurture, culture is that we, generally speaking, most people are trained to filter out the intentions of their hearts. And even God tells us He looks at the hearts, right? Most people are trained to um, not say what they mean and not mean what they say. So in a way, most people lie. Now there's now the depth of lies, right? It's like you don't like your boss, but you have to smile at him. You know, your heart is, you know, you don't like this person in church, but when they see you, you're like, ah, nice. But when you go home, you're like, "Pff." Most people are conditioned not to expose fully the intentions of their hearts. This is when we start talking about vulnerability, right? Because vulnerability comes with incredible confidence and power in your own weakness, in your own insecurity. Like the day you are okay, letting people know what you are good at and what you are not good at, which is why part of that life strategy is to map your weaknesses and strengths and to know what that looks like and the effect it has on your own self, right? Is that ultimately most people lie. They may not know they're lying, but the moment you say yes when you mean to say no, and you say no when you mean to say yes, it's a form of internal conflict. Now, other people take it to next levels, right? They now start doing it for all kinds of reasons. But one thing I have found about people in general is that it's like almost everything people do is justified within them, within themselves. There's always a reason, okay? That it's the processing of the mind, is that people tend to do things that they believe will get them the things that they want the way they want it. And lying could be one of this. And this is crazy, right? Absolutely. Right. But I'm saying that if you understand what's their own psychology and their own emotions, you need to start asking, what does this person want? What is this person trying to achieve for them to come in this way? And ultimately, I always tell people as well, unless you're a trained CIA liar or FBI liar, like, undercover people, because they go through training, deceptive training, right? Most people can read through most of these lies, which means it's now counterproductive for those people. They are not wise enough to know people can tell they're lying, which is then it turns into foolishness. Ultimately, people will lie, but everybody knows they're lying. You are like, this person is not smart, this person is unwise. You now start wondering something is off. So I know I said a lot, but ultimately it's tied to intention, it's tied to desire, it's tied to insecurities. What is this person trying not to expose to the world or to that person? If it's also tied to they are not safe. If somebody is groomed and their nervous system is trained, the only way they can escape and have peace is to lie their ways out of things. They form an identity if they don't let go of all of this. So there's all kinds of identity stuff that comes out of insecurities that originate out of trauma, and there are all kinds of it. Right now, for you observing it, best thing you can do is to offer grace. That's best I can share with you, is to offer deal with people with understanding, not judgment. Because if you judge them, you actually hurt yourself, not them. Because you're not changing them when you judge them. You are just storing within yourself a negative emotion about those people. That's all you're doing. So judgment doesn't change anybody. It just means that you've armored them in your own heart and your own being. And anytime you see this person, you're going to feel the pain that you stored in your body. So part of detachment is deal with people out of understanding. Try avoiding layering judgment on people. Sorry, understand them. Don't judge them. And if you cannot even understand them, just leave them alone if you don't want to hurt yourself in the process. Because all of these things make us question and go, I don't get it. And once you don't get it, your mind too will create certain chemicals in your body, and now you will emit a negative charge to this person. Okay, I said a lot. did that help?
Oh yeah, I mean, you hit all the spots, and I was referring to kids that develop line, and you've hit a few notes that I've kind of run into, and you're right, like because their ability to articulate why they're lying is almost impossible because, to your point, it could be trauma, it could be hurt, it could be a number of reasons. And one of the solutions that I found is giving space, just kind of removing myself from the situation because I think by default, I look to try and make things right, to fix things. I mean, even in tech, I'm always
Okay, let,
breaking
let me
things
ask a
down.
question. Damien,
Go
let me
ahead.
ask a question. You have to also clarify your own intentions in relationship with this person. If you see a child and you find them lying, okay, the question I have is, do you have trust relationship with this person? Because ultimately, if that is the identity, it means they might also feel they cannot trust anybody to tell people what they're struggling. Like they may have attempted to tell adults certain things before, and that person went ahead and told on them, right? And told on them. And so they know they don't trust people anymore. So most of these things also come with trust. Are you trying to build a relationship where they can trust you enough to drop that mask, okay? To drop that avoidance stuff? Or what's your own intent? Because I challenge people to also own, like, why are you engaged with this person? What's your role in the person's life? And are you trying to
Oh, I can
build
be
a trust
transparent.
relationship? Make sense?
Yeah,
Go
I
on.
can be transparent about that. So I'm the uncle in the story, and I'm talking about my nephew. And we have a close distance in where we live between like his mom and where I live. So we gave him the flexibility real early to walk between neighborhoods. But the only condition was before you leave one neighborhood, let someone know, an adult, that you're leaving. He could not follow this rule. We gave him the rule 3 times. He would lie about where he is. He would lie about the phone. He was just not doing it. And we kept giving him chances to do it. And it just kept getting worse where the time to come in would be 5. We couldn't get in touch with him till 6:30. And it was always this very grand love story. Could never work him out of it, even though we tried giving him examples of how dangerous it is for a kid his age to be doing this type of commute. So we had to shut it down. And through shutting that access down where he could freely move through communities, he got upset, and the lying didn't get better, it actually got worse. So I'm not even sure, even if there was an opportunity to hit rewind on the tape, how to do that any differently.
What age? What age is this? 16 ish? Or what
No,
age?
he is 16 now, and you can tell that there's I mean, he's blatantly said it now that he's older, that that was one of the things. And I'm sure there's more examples, but at the time when that was happening, he was around 7, 8.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just, like the neighborhood was safe enough. We knew, but we were just trying to teach him examples of being responsible and doing things. And to your point, I'm just the uncle. So the things that you're referencing, it could have been happening outside of my purview. And it's just one of those incidents where I know I didn't have enough
Right.
information to make that
Mm. And this thing
assessment.
gets quite complex, right? Is that at certain age, so when it comes to energy, okay, emotions, energy, and emotion, one of the things that happens in childhood is that kids do not know how to regulate their own emotions, their own desires. This is part of what's going on. Like 4 year olds, 2 year olds, they throw tantrums, and because a lot of life force is busting in their body, right? Is that they have so much energy, they are restless, they are all over the place. You can't hold them down, and they are finding their way through life. Okay. Part of why I developed the classes for parents and why even adults, because I work with adults, I work with professionals like business owners, entrepreneurs, like advanced stuff. But what's kept coming up over and over and over and over again in coaching is that our childhood conditions who we've become in a way. And many people have not broken out of the pain or the struggles of all of this back and forth. In fact, one of my friends, I was just having a conversation with her, and she was referencing something that really happened, that she didn't understand. But this thing happened 15 years ago. And the only thing I said was, okay, you are retelling the story that the person you were 15 years ago came up with. The information that person had at that time, the processing capacity of who you were back then created a story. And today, that story is still true for you. But if that same thing happened to you today, what type of story would you tell? And the moment I said that, she realized, oh my goodness, like if it happened today, it wouldn't even be a big deal to me. I wouldn't even think too much about it. I wouldn't even process it the way I processed it 15 years ago. And in that moment, you could see that she let go. She realized that that memory and that feeling and that trauma is is it was created by the story of who you were before and the level of capacity you had before. And the person you are today will write a new story that stuff will not even be a big deal to you. So part of what happens in childhood is that we don't have the capacity, the intellectual maturity, emotional maturity, spiritual maturity to even manage our own energy field, right? To control our self-control, right? Is a business of maturity. Right? Even adults today are still struggling controlling their anger, all of those things. It's real stuff. How much more a 7 year old? Because the energy is being released, things are happening to you. You're having to process it. You might process it as they're trying to control me. They're trying to control me. Why would they? Right? Children can process this thing anyway. That's why safety is the first responsibility of parents. Because the moment a child is not safe, they are running away. Even today, any relationship you are in and you don't feel safe as an adult, you're going to avoid that person. Like even as adults, people complain about their bad bosses, right? And you run away, you leave a job because your coworkers are mean and nasty. Imagine if a child 7 year old through micro messaging does not feel safe. What will they do? What options do they have? Adults today, you pack up your bag and leave and resign. That's the only thing you can do as an adult. But what of a child? That's why the number one responsibility of parents is emotional safety. So that wherever that child comes, he comes back home and he knows that home is where good food is, love is, a warm hug, nice bed, that you're getting all the good things of life and love under this roof. If a child can feel that, 1,000%, nobody's running away from love unless something insane is happening, right? Right? Nobody runs from love. We all are designed to be loved, to be cherished, to be cared for, to be nurtured in diverse ways. It's not one way because parents will say, "Oh, we love you." Well, yeah, but your words, behaviors, and actions towards me, do they carry the energy charge of love? That's something we have to now watch out for. I love you, but you're shouting. I love you, but you're beating. I love you. Children they cannot handle the polarity. Even adults cannot handle the polarity that those who love you may have hurt you. For a child, they cannot mix those two things together. Like if you say you love me, why are you shouting at me? If you say you love me, why are you beating me? If you say you love me, why are you denying me of dinner? If you say you love, children's mind cannot process that kind of experience because to them, at the soul level, love is expressed with tender, loving care. Bible says love is patient, kind. If you're not expressing that Bible kind of love to a child, the child cannot understand what's going on. So I'm not saying that this is what's happening, but I'm just trying to say, generally speaking, children don't run away from full love expressed, but they tend to react when they don't feel loved, even though they are loved. And so the way people express love as well, we have to say, okay, how am I expressing love? How are people experiencing the type of love? It's just like in marriage as well. Okay. Imagine somebody says, "Oh, I love you, give you roses today," and then next thing, he punches you. Tomorrow says, "I love you." Next thing, one slap. Next thing, he said he takes you out, does all amazing things for you. One day, he just does crazy things. What would we interpret that as? Right? I'm using this thing side by side so that we understand that for a 7-year old, 9-year old, 8-year old, some of the things people are doing, it doesn't make sense to them. Is that if you're in a relationship, you're married to somebody, the person says, I love you, and he's demonstrating all kinds of love every day, and then over the weekend, one punch. It's just one slap. It's just one. And it keeps persisting. What would you tell that person to do? Oh, he loves you, stay, hang around. But we don't know what these things, how people are experiencing these things. Make sense? So again, I'm just giving you this general, broad stroke approach to start understanding that ultimately how we are doing our love, we have to ask God to help us. Okay? Okay. Damien, you still there? Okay, no problem. Oh yeah, go.
Yeah, I'm still here. I was giving you the floor to express your thoughts, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the thing that I'm taking away from this is it's not isolated, right? Like I think a part of it too, and I'm guilty of it, and I've been learning to broaden my approach on engagement and interaction, or the human interface, as you call it. It's not one dimensional. You know, like someone's day can be filled with things that they might not want to share. And a part of that energy does show up, but it doesn't articulate itself. And they might not share it or not choose to share it, but fragments of it does reflect in behavior. So it could be lies, it could be a bunch of other things. And I think trying to put ourselves in that position and understand that we are complex creatures, and a part of it is exercising patience with each other and understanding that we are driving complex systems, right? and training ourselves to be the pilots of it is how we can get around to understanding a 7-year old to someone that's retiring. So yeah, I appreciate the feedback and I resonate with everything you're sharing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Miss Lana, thank you for being here. I saw the note you left in the chat space. Please go ahead and contribute. Thank you.
Yes, hi, thank you. And first, I'll make sure that you can hear
Oh,
me okay.
the volume. I don't know if we're on your head, you're on your hairpiece. The volume is a
I
little bit
am.
low.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I enjoy conversations about emotions and how to manage them in order to be effective in your life and in your relationships. And one thing that came to mind for me is I was brought up in a religious or even spiritual family. And so most of my values early on, my value system was based on the faith of my parents and my family. And then when I got to be about a teenager, I guess not being as dependent on your family as you are as you get older, I started to pay attention to external things and other things to create my own value system about myself and how I felt about myself and how I processed my emotions and the kind of person that had the emotions that I had. I would put them in a box, and most of what I concluded at that time was around um, zodiac signs. My zodiac sign is Cancer. So when I was in high school, one of the things was folks would say, well, cancers are sensitive and they're emotional and they are loving and they're loyal, but I don't know, there were a bunch of stereotypes around the sign. And there were the same for every zodiac sign. And I think I bought into a lot of the stereotypes around my sign and also being a woman and also being a black woman. And so I think now that I'm a bit older, I've learned that what I feel doesn't always effectively dictate what I should do. And I'm also learning that my emotions are really telling me how to care for myself. They're not necessarily telling me how to respond. All I can do is react when I consider only how I'm feeling. But if I attend to myself, then I can take that pause and figure out the best way to respond more effectively and to the avail of the outcome that I really want. A lot of times, reacting to what I'm feeling doesn't give me the outcome that I want or the most effective outcome. And that's not something that I've been conscious of most of my life. I was more of the vein that however you're feeling is telling you what you should do, and so that's the part I wanted to share that
Mm,
it's been a lot more it's been a lot more effective for me and it has been less stressful for me
mm.
to things more appropriately and use my emotions as they were intended to be used, and that is to alert me, let me know where
Mhm,
I'm at with what I'm
mm.
dealing with. Thank you.
Oh my, thank you so much for that share. The first thing I want to share is that you are wonderfully and fearfully made, and let me, I like using analogy so that people understand these complex things. One of the ones I use is that, let's say Microsoft, Microsoft or Apple created a computer, and let's say they created 200 computers, right, off the assembly line. Perfect, clean, right? And they handed each of the computer to 200 different people. Okay. 5 years after, if you bring all those 200 computers back, you see those 200 computers and you examine them and you try to compare them, you're not going to see any similarities, right? Like the same computer produced on the same day with the same software, with the same, right? Everything the same. But they once you hand it over to different hands, different realities, different experiences, right? They journey with you. If you check your own computer, if I'm to check your computer now, whatever is on your computer, listen, you put it there. Well, there's also viruses, which is another thing I reference in mindsets and emotions, right? Is that when you realize that viruses come to take you down, right? When you talk about depression and all of those things, is that there are certain thoughts, they're coming for you, they're coming for your well being. And when Bible and Jesus said, guard your heart, renew your mind, I say it's like brushing your teeth in the morning. Where did the germs come from? You slept at night, you went to bed, even if you brush your teeth at night, okay? When you wake up in the morning, it's stinky again. And you're like, come on, I just brushed it 8 hours ago. But guess what? We don't do that. We are armed with toothpaste and toothbrush and we wash it away. We also shower. We are taught self-care. Brush your teeth, comb your hair, right? Shower, use soap, scrub, right? The right places to scrub. We know we were taught that. What we weren't taught is how to scrub our minds. Okay? How to check in with our hearts daily, moment by moment. Like there are times you eat food, there's a stain on your teeth. Somebody is going to say, "Ooh, you have tooth stuck in your teeth." We know how to fix ourselves physically. Dress well, nice shoes, nice dress for success. But nobody is sitting us down. Clean up your mind for your own well-being. Because it's similar actually. It's that there are certain times, don't even question why you feel the way you feel. Just fix it. Right? And there are skills and it's easy for me to say, but trust me, the reason I call it skills is if you spend 40, 45 years with the old way, you have to give yourself at least a year to retrain your nervous system. You have to give, like the classes I teach, the things in my school, and the link is up above, the human design classes, the quantum leap programs. I am not telling you that you're going to fix these things overnight. But what we do first is awareness. And then we go deeply into the science of what's going on. And then we say, okay, what skills do we now need? And the reason I came up with this program was primarily for wealth builders, entrepreneurs, because I tell you, the moment you attempt to ascend to higher levels of success, you will be shaken to your core. All your childhood stuff will come to the surface. Because the analogy I give is like, if you want to install a new software on your phone, but your phone is clogged up with junk, you have to delete them. If you are processing trauma, you've not dealt with this, there are many things stored in people's memory that when God wants to upgrade you to higher dimensions of success, those things will be bubbling up and will be charging you negatively. Customers are coming, you can't handle them because people have hurt you so much. You've told a story that people had this, people had that, people had this. People are the ones who make you rich. You see, human beings, God is saying He will use imperfect people to make you rich. But you are looking for perfect people. You are like you are negatively charged towards human beings. You don't like people because of your childhood stories. How are you going to get rich with that mindset? Right? Because you will learn how to welcome people into your business, how to make them smile. You will treat them well before a dollar will come out of their hands. And if you don't know how to treat people well and even address their own emotional needs, people are not ready for business and success and wealth creation. Because wealth is not tied to your technical skills, it's tied to your human to human skill. How you make people feel, how people feel around you is going to determine even the job. Even if you're an employee, to get promoted, listen, people must be pleased with you. You must find favor with your boss and his own boss before you will get promoted. Even before you get a job, somebody has to approve, somebody has to like you enough to give you a job. Because many people can come with technical skills. Many people went to your same school. Many people have your degree, even better degrees. So if it's technical, they will hire them. We hire people not just for technical. Technical degree is just a supporting decision making process. Is the people we like and we feel good around. And we think when they join our team will work well with them. Those are the people we bring on board. And it's the same thing in business. So even emotions, your energy charge, if you carry a lot of stuff, this is why I created this program in my school, is because many people are saying, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, this is my business. Oh, but I don't have cost. Oh, but I don't have this. But when they speak, you see it all on Clubhouse. You see it all here on Clubhouse. Coaches and different people that say, oh, this is what I do. But you know their energy is not, they send you away. The way they talk, the things they say, how they interrupt people, how they don't even listen to anybody. You see it all. You see it all. But the truth is that that's why I talk about insecurities, right? Is that ultimately it's they may not be aware of why they are charged or fight. There's another this thing in the world of entrepreneurship where people are fighting for recognition. Fight, you know those days of Clubhouse where people come on the stage and like, it's me, give me the mic, it's me, it's why? Why? It's all emotions, insecurities, and all of these things. And until we find rest in ourselves, until we find peace in ourselves, we cannot even collaborate. We can't work with each other. We can't, people, when I talk about wealth creation, most people who build wealth, they build wealth in communities together. They support each other, they serve each other, they buy from one another. But once people cannot do life with one another, there's nowhere you're going. Because who is going to buy your product, right? Like it's people you smile at and you make them feel and they trust you and they value you and you value them. So this is also the foundation of wealth creation because earlier today I did a session on what's your relationship with money. What's your relationship with money? Let me tell you a secret. That question is actually what's your relationship with people? But I didn't say it. I didn't say it because that's the spiritual side of it. Is that your wealth is tied up with your relationship with people. And people who make other people feel good, hmm, they're the ones making money. They're the ones making money. They don't even know what you know. They don't know. They don't even have to know what you know. They don't even have to do it. All they have to do to get you throw parties, you get people laughing, you will make money. If you can gather people and people love hanging around you, it's just a matter of time you will make money. Because where people gather, people spend. But if you can't gather people and people don't like hanging around you, and you are pissed off, they are pissed off, they piss you off, oh, la, 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 you're chasing your money away. So these are matters that are so deep and spiritual as well. Is that as long as God wants to bless you, He's going to bless you with people. And as imperfect as they are, they carry money in their hands. And so anybody that wants that wants to serve or make, you have to learn how to serve imperfect people. And anybody that cannot serve imperfect people, you've just don't worry. Just do the ones you can. If you can serve, I mean, people can't even serve one boss. You're complaining about your boss is this, your boss is that, your boss is that, your team members are this, they are not nice, they are not this. Okay, entrepreneurship, good luck with that. Good luck with that. So why we have to do this work is not just for ourselves, is that when we do this work in ourselves, we will tend to now we can now, honestly, we can now see one another better. We can now love one another better. We can now respect one another better. We can now honor one another better. We can now serve one another better. Because as long as you are focused on the insecurities of other people, you cannot see the positive side of them that God can use to bless you. Right? And the same is true. Excuse me. Unless people see you, your strengths, your capacity that you can use to bless them, they can't receive you. I bet you are in churches today or in community today where you cannot, you don't feel like your talents are received in those places. Why? It's because of the same thing. People who are closed, people who have closed their hearts. I see this all the time in churches. Everybody goes to church, nobody talks to each other anymore. Do you know that? I'm telling you. Everybody goes into the church, you receive wonderful message, and when you're walking out of the church, nobody makes eye contact anymore. I'm like, this is wow, I can't believe it. In the hallway, you look at somebody, they remove their eyes. I'm like, what? Wow. Where's the community? No, that's not the community. Even people in a sports game, they still talk and laugh together. Churches today, they don't talk together, they don't laugh together. And so, how are you going to serve the world and impact the world when you cannot partner with the people in your church? You can't serve them. You're like, they don't receive me. You don't feel welcomed, but you like the message. So you go in, you listen to the message, and you go home. And you go in, you listen to the message, and you go home. The day you want to greet somebody, the person doesn't want to greet you. The energetic charge. We know these things, right? They send you a signal, stay away. You're not welcomed. And so you back off. And you too, you close yourself, you shut down because you don't trust. And so where are we going? And we say we are Christians. People in a sports bar, they don't know each other. But trust me, once they start drinking together, they lower their guards and they start gisting and talking and laughing. They don't know each other, but they are drinking together. So as long as people in church, you are drinking from, and you cannot laugh together, well, where are we going? Anyway, I just put that out there for somebody to consider. Okay, any other thoughts, feedback, comments, reactions, questions? Just feel free as I start wrapping up today. Anybody? I see the love. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
Damien.
I'll jump in. Yeah, so I appreciate the share. I think what you shared was very valuable. I'm picking up everything you're putting down. And you're right. It's definitely a human condition. And for those who can see it, I think the responsibility is to lead. And we can't lead with resentment. You are absolutely right. It's a big part of it. If we choose to create goods or services or products, it's less about the service, good or product. It's more about a fast track into self development. Because what I've realized in the process is if we are going to help folks, we have to choose things that are in front of us that we've been avoiding for a very long time. And the minute we choose not to do those things for our own personal growth, that's usually where we plateau or the business doesn't move forward. And it's always this back and forth relationship that I'm realizing with the customers that we are choosing to help versus the service, product, or good that are accommodating them. So yeah, you're right. If we can't deal with one boss, we can't deal with 100 clients. And it's just the universal law of things. If you can't deal with 10, you're not ready for 100. If you're not ready for 100, you're not going to get 1,000 and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's definitely a practice in understanding who we are, nurturing the relationships that we have, and understanding that this human interface is it. We are creative creatures, and we were put here to support and help each other and find creative ways to communicate or articulate the things that comes through our mind and our spirits. And the function of the body, I believe, is the real mastery of things. It's not the thing that we do, but it's how can we discipline ourselves enough to sit for 3 hours and read a book or to pick up any craftsmanship or whatever it is. I always use this saying where I say all masters converge at the same point, where if you do the thing long enough and you get good at it, the nature of learning it gives you the lessons that you need in order to sustain the business, teach someone, And Toyin, the way you speak as well is, I think you've mastered whatever it is that you've studied, or life gave you all the lessons you needed in order to get to this point. But I could always tell too, and this is something you shared, the energy of someone. My best teacher was my grandmother. I grew up in Jamaica. She was a seamstress, and I was always by her side. And I think the thing I pulled most from that relationship was the nonverbal communication we had. She had a way of communicating with me where we didn't need words. And for a very long time after she died, I was about 12, 13. So her loss was huge for me. And I think I grew up the minute she died, because I could relate to some of the things you were saying. Like the minute she died, I felt unsafe. I mean, granted, I had other people around, but it just didn't feel the same. And I think through that entire experience, it taught me a lot. And I think her role was just that, right? It's a part of the narratives and how we take it with us. But yeah, it's entangled. It's a lot, and I think it's patience, right? It's just figuring out how we take all these things into account to be the wholest versions of ourselves we can be.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons this is important is I think we have an incredible opportunity in the world today, right? Because the world is in transition from the old to the new to the future of the world. And we are all at a serious inflection point where I think it either goes downhill from now, or we carry ourselves up to higher dimensions of human experiences, right? Post COVID and all of those things is that everybody has been seriously like dysregulated with the old stuff, the old world, right? And many people have not recovered emotionally. And if we're going to be honest, what it did was it exposed all the flaws. We were all living, we thought we were living perfect lives. I think at least we were putting that face to the world. We're showing up to the workplace, putting a smile on our face, then we go back home and we do stuff. I feel God used that opportunity the last 3 years to show people parts of their life, which is why I said earlier, the moment you want higher levels of success, life will bring all your past, like serious, the parts the unresolved side of you must be resolved. Because even in the Bible, new wine is not going to go into old wineskin. There's a lot of transformation that we all have to go through. And part of my program is to give people the skills to go through it in a less painful way. Right. So that's where we are, as I think the whole world, we've all been cultured and trained. Listen, one of the reasons emotion is a big topic today is because the traditional education system matures people's mind, but does not mature people's spirits and soul, does not invest in the well being of people's soul and heart, the place of desire, the place of your spiritual power. And so the mind has been loaded with stuff, okay? And the mind is functioning mostly independent of your soul's desire. You are doing what you were told to do. Society conditions you, family conditions you, right? You condition yourself. And so part of what happens when we talk about spiritual awakening is when suddenly you slow down enough to listen to the voice of your soul. Right? COVID made forced everybody to, we were running really fast. We were feeling successful. We were showing up every day. Like we were on autopilot. But slowing down enough, you now had to sit with yourself, with your real life, and you had to now process the thoughts that was emerging within you. That's always been there. The things that needed all kinds of fixing, that we didn't have time, don't have time, you don't have this, okay? We were forced to face those things. And so all of the things that came up now needs to be resolved. And most of those things are painful. When I say painful, I don't mean, I mean physically painful. It's like shooting. Like, because what happens with emotion now, from a spiritual standpoint, is that many people don't understand that it actually leads to diseases. Because literally, excuse me, excuse me. Okay, I think this is important. We need to talk about this. Is that energy is like combusting, it's like fire. That's why people do breath work, because the cooling fan in your system is breath. You inflammation, okay, is one of the outcomes of unresolved emotional pain. Is that the longer you carry real pain, is that it's like it's like you are cooking yourself. Like, it's like, because the energy is hot, you feel hot, and the heat. If you see somebody angry, you see them flushed, like face will be red. It's fire, okay? And you're not supposed to be carrying it around. You're supposed to be cooling yourself, cool it down, let it go. But imagine if people have memories that make them angry, 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 angry. It's like they are in pain. Like, when I say pain, I mean physical pain. Like, if it was a wound, they will put a bandage on. When we start talking about soul wound, people don't know how serious this is. Serious, it's serious pain. So I don't know how else to describe it. And so, one of the ways, maybe I'll share one of those tips today, just for somebody listening, right? If they've not taken my classes. One of my classes, I talk about self therapy. One of the things I encourage people to do is, ahead of time, like, decide who you want to become or who you want to be. Just just make a decision ahead and say, I want to be a loving person, I want to be a kind person, right? Just articulate your embodiment of truth. Who do you want to become? You have to do that ahead of time. Once you do that, that is your baseline. I call it set your baseline. Okay? Because anything outside of your baseline, you need to tag it as a dysregulation. Somebody has shifted you out of your ideal person. Like, so for example, if you want to be somebody that is peaceful, loving, funny, kind, your kids love you, you love your kids, because this is intentional living. You can, particularly if you're a parent, you can definitely just say, I want my home to be this. This is how we are going to handle arguments. This is how we are going to resolve things. You can, this is the power of a parent. You can set the temperature, the emotional charge of your home, right? As your kids are going in and out of your home, as people come into your home and act and go out of it. You know those grandma you talked about, Damien? Part of what they did, they knew, in spite of whatever they were going through, they knew how to create love. Love is an emotion that people can experience. They cook food, they take care of you, they touch you with love. When you see their eyes, you know you are loved. So they set aside their own stuff, but they emitted love constantly, constantly. Their warmth, their care, the food, right? When they say soul food, when you eat that food, a food that is prepared with love, listen, it tastes differently. Bible will say, somebody says, eat food, this food, but their heart is not with you. Listen, the heart that prepared a loving meal, when you're eating the food, it gives you peace. It gives you rest. That's why they call it soul food. It's like they're feeding your soul love, even though it's physical food, but they are dosing you with love. Okay? Part of what today's life is we don't know how to recreate those things anymore for the next generation. We don't cook, we don't gather around tables, we don't let people talk, we don't let them laugh, we don't do things together. But all of those things, they are important for unity, love, health. So it's back to the drawing board. So that drawing board, I say, decide who you want to be, how you want people to experience you, what emotions you want to embody. Set that as your baseline, as your guide. Like, this is who I am. Anything that happens in life that moves me off this, okay? Somebody triggers you, somebody got you upset. Don't build an identity off those trigger. I then say set your thermostat. How does thermostat function? It could be cold outside in the winter, but if I say my thermostat is 70, it means bring me back to my ideal temperature of 70. Because if you don't set your thermostat, if it is cold, your house will be cold. If it is 90 degrees outside, your house will be 90 degrees. And so when you don't create emotional boundaries, is that you enter a space, everybody's angry, you will be the sixth person. Meaning the conditions of your body is now you're opening yourself to be regulated by dysregulated people. They will tune you to be like them. You become like them by default. You become like your parents, you become like your spouse, you become like them because as humans we tune each other by default. If you hang around angry people, trust me, it's just a matter of time. You'll be talking like them, thinking like them, believing like them, behaving like them. Period. You can't help it because your mind doesn't have any filter. The moment you sit around a place, your mind is taking all the information in and using it to process the direction of your own life. Very soon, you will arrive where those people have arrived. The same conclusions about life. So you need to be careful. But one way of handling this thing is what I said I taught in one of those human design classes that is available. The link to my school is up above. We have the Entrepreneurs Academy. We have over 300 resources. It's fully loaded, right? Is that you don't have control over other people. Remember America's Super Mom, you were like, people come on stage, they start doing this. You don't. My job is not to control other people's life. I let people just do whatever they want to do, right? Because all they are doing is they're educating you about who they are. And you can decide I accept, I don't accept. But you can't change people. The moment you try changing people, you will stress yourself, you will injure yourself emotionally because now you're processing their thoughts within your system. You've introduced a foreign matter into your own system and they will mess you up. It will mess you up. When you say people did you this, no, they didn't do you anything. You did everything by yourself because you opened your system to process wrong thoughts. Their thoughts coming out from, and this is so deep because I could listen. There's a whole lot of stuff out there. Is that if you hang around people who put you down energetically, like they look down at you, and you know that they look down at you, trust me, your mind will not perform optimally. Your mind will condition you. Damian, go on.
Yeah, Toyin. So really quickly before we move off this topic, I think it works in the opposite direction as well because what I've realized too is if you are that person that shows up with that positive energy and you're bringing light to the space or the room or wherever you show up, some people have an allergic reaction to that. They'll see you for what you are, and sometimes because you show up that way, you can see the veil that they brought to the party. And because
Oh,
that veil usually works, they try to stay away from people that see beyond it. Are you observing the same thing as
oh, this
well?
no, this what you're saying is absolute. Like, listen, I posted something on LinkedIn which day I said ignorance fights. Ignorance is a rough fighter. Don't fight it. Bible talks about the fool. If you attempt to tell a fool, stop. You listen. You are going to be you don't want to start that stuff. You don't want to start that stuff. No. This when I talk
Yeah,
about leadership, yeah,
I,
Damien.
I, I do share this thing too about yelling at rocks. Like if I was walking down the street and I saw a Toyin yelling at a rock, who should I have concern over, the rock or Toyin?
Yeah, but it's a
And the
fact
answer is
though.
usually,
Yeah, but what you're
um,
saying is something what for people to consider because it's real. But what I try to tell people is use wisdom in your relationships is that my job is never to attempt to open anybody's mind. My job as a teacher, as a coach, as an educator is not to to try and force anybody to open their mind to me. That's not my job. That's why like pride. So people who embody pride, even God says he opposes proud people. Okay. So there are proud people. Pride goes before a fall. They are going to go off the cliff and nobody will tell them. They injure themselves, right? Pride people, foolish people. I'm using biblical words. Like, it's like closed mindedness is a condition of people who believe there's nothing else to know and they already embody all that they want to know for their life. The reason is because the day you confront new knowledge, the day you gain enlightenment, now you are held responsible for what you will do with that knowledge. So anybody that is lazy, I'm going to use strong words. I'm an author. I know the power of words. When people are lazy, meaning they don't want to develop themselves, they don't want to be held accountable, they don't want to do any work, they just want to Netflix and live simple life. Those people close their mind to the assignments of elevating themselves because personal development is work, is real hard work to discipline yourself, to train yourself, to have self control is not for lazy people. Is not. So until people arrive at the junction and they are broken enough and they actually are talking to God and they are begging God, God, please help me. I want to be better. I want to save my marriage. I want to help my kids. I don't want to make mistake. Even God says, if my people will humble themselves, okay, and change their ways, then I will hear from heaven. This is a God relationship we're talking about as well. If his own people that are called by his name. So this includes Christians. God is now saying, you have to humble yourself. You have to get to a point. This is why we talk about spiritual awakening tend to happen after a crisis, not before. This is the saddest thing, reality, because you can be screaming at people today, hey, this, download, you come to class, oh, take these tools, help yourself, oh, help your family, help marriage seminar, oh, they will not come. They will not come. They will not invest. They will not carve out time. They will not prioritize none of these things. Why? Because until this is sad. I wish it wasn't this way, but this is what I've observed. People have to get to a wall, the end of themselves, the end of their own intelligence before they raise their hand and surrender to God, higher power, right? God, help me. Because the moment you say, help me, help will arrive. You'll be in these classes. That's when you know, oh, Tony, Coach Tony, how come I've never seen you before? Like, we've been here for years. Because anybody that doesn't believe they have a problem will not be looking for a solution, right? It's not my job to awaken, to pry open, even salvation, faith. God will appeal. God will offer. God will present you benefits and right pro and con. He will put everything because even the way he created us, God will not touch your will. He will say, give me your heart. He will be begging you. I love you. Let me take care of your heart. Surrender to me. He will be appealing, begging, in sales. We will appeal. We will tell you this is the class, this is the solution. Click here, download this, register. That's all we can do. Right? God would, because He has created us not to, He won't break our will unless you are in opposition. Then God will fight you. God fights opposition and He wins and conquers and destroys. Read the Old Testament. But when you are on His side, He will be is gentle. Go and look at the qualities of love. He's gentle, He's kind, He's loving, He's long suffering, He's patient. That's what God will do to us until something then happens. You see, and that person is now forced to confront themselves. Usually at that point is when people will even be listening to this conversation I'm talking about. Something has happened You've had to be struggling to find information. Sometimes it's a broken relationship. So it's all kinds of things. Sometimes it's sickness. Sometimes something has broken. But I wish, because that's why I created a class, almost 2 hour class for parents to teach their kids this thing ahead of time, because this ought to be, it doesn't, tooth doesn't have to decay if we teach people how to brush their teeth. Now, every 6 months go for deep cleaning, but I see this as part of life, but nobody told us. So
Yeah.
I don't, I don't personally try to make people listen to me. It's a waste of my energy. It's not my job. When people show up to class, they bring their pen and their paper, they want to learn. So as an educator, I'm not in the business of engaging with anybody that is telling, there's another thing people do, prove to me that you are right. I'm like, no, please. If you need proof, go and educate yourself on YouTube. At least go and educate yourself to a certain level. And you, right? So some people do that too. They want to use me. They come in with an attitude of, ah, use your energy to open my mind. I'm like, no, only
I
open
think that,
minds. You've seen that,
yeah,
right?
I call that the devil testing faith. But you said something too that's important, right? And I want to address this and see if
Mm,
this is your experience.
mm.
But do you have to be broken in order to
You don't
come to
have
this
to be.
conclusion?
You don't have to be. You have to be wise.
But 9 times out of 10, broken is usually the segue.
Because it's the human condition. We are all right in our own eyes until our wisdom or our intellect fails us. You see, when you went to school, part of the school system, the failure of the school system is they will be giving you A, making you feel smart, right? So everybody graduated with A and certificates of wisdom of I'm the smartest person in the world. But they don't understand consciousness, that there are other superior intelligence that they don't embody. So they enter into the world thinking the school has prepared them for real life until they start getting married, having kids, going to the workplace, engaging with real people. That's when they will now realize, oh, interesting. But usually people meet those real life experiences with ignorance, and ignorance says, I'm right, you are wrong. So suddenly, they think everybody in the world is bad and wrong, and they are right. So they judge everybody. Everybody is the problem. So until people awaken to their own contribution to life, until people take some responsibility that something in them is the one influencing how they're experiencing life. But most people don't get there because they are trained to say, okay, you are smart, you are ready for the real world. Here's your certificate, leave your house, go get a job, get married, have kids, make money, and you're fine until you start engaging with real humans, real life stuff. And you are using that mindset to process life, and you're not engaging your heart, you're not engaging your spirit, because none of that education, people haven't exposed themselves to the power of emotion. So people, you can't use logic to understand humans. Humans are not logical. So you can have 10 degrees, 100 books to understand people. It's not logic, but school teaches you logic. A, if people do this, then this. But now in dealing with people, you expect them to do this, they surprise you. You expect them to do that, they shock you. You expect most of these things is the shock of life. People surprising you, people realizing that life doesn't work the way they think life works. And now they're trying to control life to make it work their own way. And it doesn't work that way. So until that fight, right, that fight, until somebody, because there's so many things in the classes I include, but the inner battle between the heart and the mind, I always say you're your own hero. Rescue your hopes, dreams, and aspiration, because soon enough you now want certain results in your life, in your marriage, with your kids. How do you get those results? And the other things I teach on manifestation and coach when I coach people is that You, if only you knew how you are the architect and the script writer of your own life, and that you can recruit people to help you build the life of your dreams. If only you knew that the way you were thinking is why you picked the person you picked. But if you were thinking a different way, you could have picked, right? And also, you can retrain people. This is the power of manifesting a life, is that you are part of the creative process of your own life experience. So if you don't like what you're getting, you can sit back, take your pen and paper and script something else and ask yourself, what do I really want? And design a new life. And trust me, God has designed it in such a way that God even hears you. What is the power of prayer? What is the power of prayer? Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. What are you asking? You can ask for new realities. And God loves to answer prayers. You can script. I want this. Right? You can script. You can start changing yourself. And soon enough, when you change, all those circumstances will change. People's reaction with you will change. Because when you change and your charge changes, people will stop talking to you the way they used to talk to you. People will see you differently because you will be emitting a different signal, and the strength and the power you pack will delete certain conditions from your life. You will not have to deal with many things you are dealing with today. That's why I talk about quantum leap. Is that there are new ways of believing, new ways of being that, trust me, you will not be dealing with many things today. Many people are dealing with many things because you are operating, the vibration is attracting those conditions in your life, right? But if you raise your vibration and if you live life with intentionality, no, people will take you more seriously. There are some things you sweep that will naturally just, it will fade away. Because even them, when I say them, they will not treat you the way, they won't talk to you the way they used to talk to you. They won't be like, we know these things. We know the people we can pump, we can poke. Right? They know your availability and the access they have to you. When you close access and you take the key of your house back from the people that you could enter in, the people that you pick their phone call before, the people that used to eat and dine with, when you are no longer available, you are so busy, right, building your life of purpose. You are so busy obeying God, you have less time for all the things that troubles you, all the people that, because most of this dysregulation is caused by, should I say it, people who have energy to waste. I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
And
Mhm.
you know what makes it hard too? And just to kind of, speak for some of the people that aren't in the room, culture, religion, family, close friends, and that's just naming a few, play a very huge role in what we're talking about. And
Oh,
I
yes.
think even, yeah, even culturally, right? Blood thicker than water. A lot of us know that before we can say ABC. So when we accept these things and the key is handed out, it almost feels wrong or sacrilegious to take the keys back.
Okay, let me share this with you. I'm going to give you a top secret. Who determines culture? Who determines what is right or wrong? Who determines what is acceptable and not or not? Let me tell you those who do this. They are the people who wield power. Okay? The people who hold power, who power favors, controls everybody else until you become powerful enough to break from that energetic hold. You are not free. You are not free from them. Part of this work, okay, this is why I'm going more into deep spaces now. It's not for child. This is not child's
Oh,
play.
listen, believe me, I'm not here to,
Mhm.
squeeze the master class. Like you're well versed in what you do. I was just being
No,
devil's
it's real.
advocate, and yeah, no,
It's
it is
real.
real. Yeah, so I understand, and I'm just sharing like my own. observations on these things, and
Hmm.
I think we're in sync. Like it
Yes,
is.
yes.
Here's the thing that I've realized. Right, the truth is available to everyone. There is no secret. There is no Da Vinci Code. The only access is hard work, determination, and making sure that you're continuing to do the thing that shows progress. And the minute we accept that, the things that we're talking about now is
Hmm.
one of the reasons why we use this 90-10% rule that we use, because it's usually less than 10% leads the majority.
Right. And what you're saying is why I teach what I call personal power, is that you may not be in a position to shift culture or your family, that you may not be in the right? But what you can do, okay, is to demote or which words, there are many words I use, but I want to be careful because of the context of this room. I'm not, if I had the classes and like if you're taking my class, then you get some other stuff. But your job, let's just say, is to minimize the influence those things have on the conditions of your life, right? There are, there's a word I say, godified figures. There are people who have strategically positioned themselves to, when we start going into narcissism, domination, da 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 da, they are who they are. And trust me, they are charged, they have energy. You remember I talked about me being a motivational speaker, you know, what I use my own power to do, educate people, enlighten people, set people free, right? Give people clarity. And remember I said that. Please realize there are other people that use the same the same force to keep you down.
I know those people very well.
Okay. And so when you have those people as a boss or in any authority figure, you cannot change them. Okay. You can't change them. Don't try to change them. Okay. You break yourself unless, but what you can do when I say personal power is you must increase your power. You must increase your power. That's the first thing for you to break out of any energetic hold. We start going into spiritual side now, spiritual psychology. There's emotional intelligence, there's energy field, all of those things. But once you start diving into spiritual psychology, you must acknowledge that humans are spirits, and not just our words, our spirits carry a force that you can say yes, you can say no, and those things persist generationally. That's why I said I want to be careful how I drop these things, because if people are not matured or they're not ready to deal with that stuff, they really are not ready to because intellectually you have to you know, most people are familiar with, oh, physical safety. Listen, there's physical safety, there's intellectual safety. There are places where when you start speaking, they don't welcome your thoughts, your intellect, your smarts, they dismiss you. You don't have a voice. You are not
Yeah.
intellectually safe. So people tend to mute themselves and go radio silent. People develop personality. Oh, I'm shy. Oh, I'm this, I'm this. Why? It's because you were raised in places that intellectually they didn't even, your thoughts, opinions did not matter. They raised you. You didn't exist. You don't have a voice. But they, you will hear their voices all over. And their voices rule over those who don't have voices. So there's physical safety, there's intellectual safety, there's emotional safety. Emotional safety, your emotional well-being. Do people care enough how they treat you to know you are on the receiving end of their assault? All the things, narcissistic people, right? They are clueless. They don't really know how you feel. They don't know, they don't acknowledge. All they care about is me, 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 me. But your emotional needs and safety is not their business. You find yourself in that space, good luck with that. What of spiritual safety? That one, another topic, not for today. But there are many people, diabolically, they are shooting you. They are not just tolerating you or dismissing you, they are actively trying to derail you energetically. That one is another level. Let's leave
Yeah,
that
no,
one alone. Yes.
I can relate to that. Yeah, no, you're spot on. And I think anyone that went through corporate America for any long period can actually attest to that. Like that energy is real. And I think that's why there's a lot of burnout in corporate because it attracts those types of folks that you're talking about. They're not rewarded on their people engagement. They're rewarded by profits and things and metrics and all the things that are not human, and we've positioned those things as being more important. So yeah, what you're talking about casts those doubts into folks, making
Mhm.
us believe that these conversations aren't even valuable because it begins to sound unattainable. It starts sounding magical, and these are for other people with special
Mm,
skills.
mm. In anywhere, what we are talking about, anywhere people are gathered and there's power and authority and title to be had, typically you're going to find these forces. You're finding in churches, religious circles, political circles, workplaces, where there's money, right? Where there is power, influence, money, and people want to grab and hold it so that they can control right, for whatever reason. Some people do it for good. That's what I'm saying. Like this same piece reason, some people will go after power, title, so that they can create a safe space for people, so that they can do good. There are a lot of people that look for those things so that for their own reasons. But one of the reasons I share this, particularly my work is geared towards leaders in business, leaders in religious circles, and leaders in government. Those are the people I train, is that part of the number one responsibility of a leader is to create emotional safety, spiritual safety, intellectual safety. If you cannot do that, you're a bad leader. Before you start telling people to be productive, to be creative and productive, people will be more creative and more productive under a leader where they feel safe. So creativity and productivity drives economies. So any society, right, any community that have bad leadership, people will suffer. Bible talks about this. People cannot because you cannot create if you get involved with all this stuff. So the first responsibility I believe of a great leader, whether you are a leader of a nation, you have to protect your nation. Because any look at Ukraine now, if people are not safe, they cannot produce, they cannot create. Economy comes behind safety, because only people who are safe can be producing and walking around, right? So this is why these classes are important. Whether you're a business owner, you're starting to employ, you have employees, you have customers, you have clients, you have vendors. Please realize, ultimately, this is part of the reasons people do work with one another. So it's quite advanced again, you know. Lorna, you came back. Let me see. I think there's a note. America Supermom, great room, having dinner with family. See you next time. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the space. Any other parting words? This goes on and on. Classes, courses, diagrams are in my school. Workbooks, all kinds of things are in my school. The link is up above, toyinumesiri.academy. Check them out. Join us. This conversation doesn't end. It's a lifetime. It's a conversation for a lifetime. Lorna, please, you on mic. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I thank you so much for the space today because I really needed to be able to speak out a little bit. I haven't been on Clubhouse for a long time, and even speaking today, it helped me know I need to speak up a bit more. But one of the things that I really have been getting, and I wanted to share this in brief, in short, is that my perspective is a perspective. It's not the perspective, and it's created by my experiences, and my experiences are like filtered. They filter everything about me and everything I consider. So the best gift I can give to myself is to stay teachable and open and allow myself to be guided spiritually. For me, that's the most important thing about it. But allow myself to be guided and be teachable because all I have is the experiences that I've had to interpret things and to
Mm,
say, how I should handle things or how I should relate to people. And that's not
mhm,
all there is. So that's
mm,
all I
mm.
can share.
Okay,
Thank
let me share a few things I think will help. So, number one, your feelings and emotions, they are valid. I know you said some things right at the beginning when you were introducing yourself, but I want you to know, because there are some times when we take this type of information, we swing the pendulum to an extreme. Hi, Renee, good to see you. We go we go from 100% feelings to 0% feelings. But one thing I want you to know, please, your feelings and emotions, they are very, very valid, particularly because, okay, you're going to experience life through your feelings and emotions. Now, having said that, the power we have is to choose, okay, how we want to feel and what type of emotions we want to embody. There was a session I hosted, and I shared 5 reasons emotions are good for you. And the first thing I shared, going into the science of emotion, is that emotions activate us. Without emotions, your body will not take any action. It wouldn't have the energy to move around. Emotions is like when you start your car. If your car, you don't start your engine, the car is stationary. Many people cannot do things because they don't actually activate themselves with the right emotions of mobility. So the science of emotion is that you receive the chemical composition that will give you energy to take action. However, the thoughts that produce that chemical can accelerate you into the future or break you down. But you can choose the emotions that accelerate you. That's the whole point when I say quantum leap. Okay? You can deliberately, intentionally process certain thoughts that will take you to higher levels of success. You can do that and invest that in yourself. Because things that motivate you, things that inspire you, things that educate you, things that transform you, okay, will set you free. You remember Bible will say the truth will set you free. But what people don't understand is like lies hold people bound. When you start believing I'm not this, I'm that, I'm white, I'm black, I'm a female, because of this, people won't do this. All of that thoughts is wiring you to fail in that dimension. So the problem is not emotions and feelings. The issue is, what are you thinking? What are you believing? That is now creating the experiences you don't like in your body. Because the moment you go and fix that foundation, your beliefs, you will love life. You will be happy. You'll be joyful because you'll be releasing the chemicals of wellness and happiness and joy in your own body. It's still emotions, but it's the emotion that God intended for us to experience when He created us. But realize, if you're a Christian, there's also the enemy that is at work telling lies. And Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. You are no more than your thoughts. When I say you are not more than your thoughts, I don't mean that God doesn't have bigger for you, but you limit how much of God you experience through the quality of your own thinking capacity. So what? So many people will be fighting themselves. Oh, my mindset. Mindset is not the problem, because the mind is set by you. You are the one setting your mind on what it should focus on. You are the one prioritizing things in your life. You might be prioritizing some people you shouldn't prioritize. Every time you talk to them, they bring you down. Why are you calling them again? You are prioritizing going to places you shouldn't go to. When you leave that place, you feel depressed. You are processing thoughts and exposing your mind to things. It's like eating food. You keep eating food you shouldn't eat. When you have constipation, what caused constipation? Is it the stomach that is processing that information? It's not the stomach. It's what you fed the stomach. Because the system works how it was designed. It receives whatever you eat, tries to break it. If it fails at breaking it, it will start paining you. That's what's happening in people's mind. It works perfectly. What's not working is what we're feeding the mind. Bible will tell you, read the Bible so that you can have success. People won't read. They won't read it. Because when God says you, I have good plans for you. I love you. Listen, these are the things we need to be hearing. That you are loved, that you are respected, that He has great future for you. But you are not listening to God that He has great future for you. You are listening to the Fox News that is saying, oh, economic crisis, there's going to be no money. Why would those things create anxiety for people? God is telling you, I'll give you an expected end, but you are processing an unexpected, an end you don't like. Please, guys, this is what is going on right now. Is that until you tune to the channel for your own well-being, and if you tune to the channel, you would experience all of these words produce life or take life. Bible says it clearly. I won't go into it too much today. There's a whole energetic field that the mind produces that can choke, that literally you will feel parts of your, it sends this energy and they get stuck. And the way you have to unpack it and remove that stuck, right, that pain in your body is you must counter it with a new thought. And trust me, in a moment, I've seen people get healed like that. Headache, headache, headache. What are you thinking with your mind? The moment you set your mind free, and all you even have to do, go and play with your friends. Just go and hang out with your friends. When you come back, you'll be laughing. You feel better. Why? Because that tension, that pressure, that energetic pressure on a part of your body is because consciously or subconsciously, your mind is processing a thought that is inflicting pain on you. If you want to rest, go and play. Just go outside, take a walk, go and play with your friends. Trust me, that tension will fly away because now your mind is exposed to beautiful things, beautiful conversations. Laughter is pure medicine. You won't even remember anymore. But as long as people stay locked in that emotion, unless you think something beautiful, people are locked in. So mind is not the problem. What we are putting into the mind is the issue. So when Bible says renew your mind, it's like your teeth. The teeth is not the problem, but you start putting sugar and not brushing the teeth. Decay is just it's part of the decay of life. So intentionality, intentional living is the solution. Is that when you wake up in the morning, spend your 30 minutes, an hour processing your thoughts, having your goals, having your passions, asking yourself, what are you going to create today? What do you want to create today? What do you want to enjoy today? And start infusing joy and happiness into your day. Whether you play music, whether it's skincare, whatever brings you joy, introduce it into your life because nobody's going to help you have joy. You need to introduce into every day of your life something fun, something happy, something relaxing that grounds you, okay? That really removes the negative charge. It's like brushing your teeth. If we don't brush our teeth, it stinks. If we don't discharge, because life, you're talking to people, you are doing this, you are doing that, you're processing so much information today, more than the mind was designed to be. We're taking in so much, and this thing causes pressure on the body. So part of it is also how are you going to decompress? How are you going to release yourself from the burden of all these things people are processing, the overwhelm? It's just intentional living and realizing that you have the power to choose what you're going to process. And the most advanced side, you start realizing that certain thoughts will want to come to your mind. You just say, nope, not today. This is not my priority. And then you say, okay, this is what I'm trying to do today. That is where we all need to get to. Otherwise, those things just flying. They just fly out because there's no filter, there's no gatekeeper. You are the gatekeeper of your own mind. And so many people are asleep at the gate of their life. They are asleep. So anything goes, anything, and everything that comes in shows up in your emotions. But we have to retrain and retune, and then the nervous system could be trained towards anxiety because you're carrying the DNAs of your parents. There are many things many information encoded in the DNA that you
A
can't
quote,
even control. Yeah. Yes,
just a
ma'am.
very quick quote. This is something that my mother used to tell me when I was a kid about my thoughts. She would say, "You can't stop the birds from flying over your head, but you can stop them from making a
Mm,
nest in your hair."
mm, mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. Yeah. Mm. It's just, I mean, how I wish this is something that we were taught, you know, yeah, like, not because many of the times we are told the principle in general, but there's a skill behind all of this principle, which is why when I'm teaching in my school, you have a PowerPoint. I design models. I share the science, the biology. Then I teach skills, self therapy, reparenting, all of these things. And people have to take notes. And you have to, it's like learning how to brush your teeth. This is your toothbrush. This is your toothpaste. Go up and down. But the first day we are taught, we don't get it right the first time. So many principles we can know it in general. But one of the things I also see is that until we challenge ourselves to train ourselves, because it's a retraining of the nervous system, it's a retraining pattern. And there are many deep things that one on one in coaching we go through as well. But I want to encourage people that it does take time, persist, don't give up, learn more of yourself, because part of how I train people is don't beat yourself down, because many people may think they are helping themselves or controlling themselves, but the hand with which they are doing it is even doing more damage. I train in a more energetically peaceful way. Like, listen, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. Like, we are here on planet Earth together, right? Listen, be kind to yourself. Like, don't beat yourself. Listen, don't, if you beat yourself, other people will beat you. In fact, you are beating yourself because other people used to beat you. Like, I've spoken to people, the same weapon people use to cage people is like the assaulter has gone, but they left behind. They trained you now to be doing the job by yourself. Many people are not kind to themselves, right? The way they talk to themselves, the way they try to, it's, you are, be kind. In fact, the soul of man, that's why Bible talks about being gentle. And finally, the best way to learn how to love people is to love yourself. The best way to learn how to be gentle with other people is to be gentle with yourself, because that skill you gain as you learn more about yourself, that same skill is what you are going to use to work with other people. And what you don't have, you can't give. And so many times, if you are too hard on yourself, you will be hard on everybody else, because the same measure is what you're, right? So the most important way to learn this thing is practice on yourself and realize you talk to people the way you talk to yourself, and whatever energy charge you embody is what you're going to distribute to the world around you. And so for me, in practical ways, I can go on 1 hour, 2 hours. Like, I do this work a lot. And one of the reasons I'm so impactful is because clarity, the truth, will set us free. So I hope the time you spent with me today, that you've experienced some form of release and freedom, and you feel better and you feel whole, right? That's my own intention when I speak these things, when I engage with people, is because I know for a fact that part of the gifts and the grace and the anointing on my work, on myself, is that freedom is here. Freedom is here. And so you can access it anytime you want. And that's what is expensive: freedom, peace of mind. And I pray that God will continue to give it to us and we continue to walk into that space where we find ourselves and we find the beauty of everything God is, wanting us to experience. So thank you, everybody. Follow me on YouTube, LinkedIn. My school has incredible programs, classes, courses. Like, listen, deep things. Like, if you want to go there, listen, we'll go there with you. So, God bless you. Thanks, Lorna. And thanks, Miss Paula on LinkedIn. You've been here all along. I'm going to end the broadcast now. God bless you. See you around. Thank you.